Google's quantum computer Willow is the strongest quantum computer ever created. It's so powerful that some believe it could actually crack Bitcoin security. So is this the beginning of the end for Bitcoin, and is now the time to sell everything before it's too late? In this video, we're going to discuss everything that you need to know, from what quantum computing actually is to how Willow works and whether it actually poses a threat to Bitcoin's future or not. And most importantly, we're also going to cover what this means for your investments. So stick around until the very end, because this is one of the most important discussions going on in crypto right now. And if you enjoy watching videos like this one, then do me a quick favor, smash the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet, because I'm going to be posting regular videos just like this one to make sure that you get an unfair advantage in the crypto market and to help you to make sense of everything that's going on. So let's dive in. So Google's new quantum computer will destroy Bitcoin. Is now the time to sell? So if you've been following the news, then you've probably heard about Willow. So Willow is Google's state-of-the-art quantum chip. So here you see a picture of Willow. So this is the quantum computer. It's super tiny and it's extremely powerful. Here, Sundar Pichai, so the CEO of Google, he's saying, we're introducing Willow, our new state-of-the-art quantum computing chip with a breakthrough that can reduce errors exponentially as we scale up using more qubits. We're going to cover in a bit what qubits mean. Cracking a 30-year challenge in the field. In benchmark tests, Willow solved a standard computation in less than 5 minutes that would take a leading supercomputer over 10 to the power 25 years. So 10 with 25 zeros behind it. I don't even know what word to give to that. But the whole point to take away from this tweet is that this quantum computer is extremely powerful and it's able to make computations that other existing solutions take millions, billions, quadrillions, tons of years in order to actually solve. So actually, to give you some context, this 10 to the power 25 years is actually far beyond the age of the universe. So, okay, that's basically engineer bragging for, our quantum computer is just super powerful. It could have been a way shorter tweet, but yeah, anyways. So how did we get here? How did we get here to quantum computers that are so powerful that they're able to solve such complex computations in such a short time? Well, maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this, but I actually did a degree in electronic and electrical engineering. And one of the most interesting things that I learned at electronic engineering was Moore's law. So Moore's law states that the power of a computer chip basically doubles every 1.5 years. And that has to do with the fact that the number of transistors, so this is a transistor. Basically, it's a very tiny device. And this very tiny device made of like silicon and some other stuff combined, it can basically be in two different states, 0 or 1, 0 or 1. So what you're watching right now, this video, is just zeros and ones. That's how data is transmitted. And then you have these algorithms that transform these zeros and ones into actually pictures, videos, audios, and websites and other stuff. But at the very core are these very small devices, which can be zeros and ones. So the power of computers doubles every 1.5 years because these devices, these transistors, they become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as we develop better technologies. So these devices are created in very specialized labs where they're able to produce these very small devices on these chips. And the more of these devices they can put on chips, the more complicated computations they can execute on these chips. So yeah, so what I mentioned before, computers communicate in zeros and ones. And we've gotten to the point where people believed that we actually broke Moore's law, that we actually experienced the limits of Moore's law. So that would mean that computing power would no longer be able to double every 1.5 years. Why is that so? Well, because if you make these devices even smaller, you would go on the atomic level. And on the atomic level, there are different rules, different physical rules that govern that particular domain. We call that quantum physics. So what happens on the atomic level? Well, an atom has a neutron, which is like the core. It has some positively charged protons, and it has electrons. Now, what can happen is you can add an additional electron, or you can take away a proton to give it a certain charge. This would put it in a 0 or a 1 state, basically. However, on quantum level, it is not 0 and 1, because atoms can be at all different, can be in many different places, depending on where at a specific point in time you observe that atom. So I don't want to go too much into detail, because the whole field of quantum physics is a whole in-depth study by itself. But the point that I want to make is that in order to continue making these devices smaller and computers more powerful, we had to go to the atomic level. And at atomic level, it's not zeros and ones, but it can be any different combination between 0 and 1. So this gives you an infinite amount of possibilities between zeros and 1. So rather than having to use many of these different devices, these quantum computers can actually contain a lot of different data or a lot of different states, which allows you to make very complicated computations, much more powerful than the previous transistors. So how does that look like? Well, over here you see an example of a quantum computer. All of these, basically these pipes, are not the quantum computer. That's what some people believe. But these are actually the tubes that are used to cool the chip. So here you see Willow. It's actually a very small chip. So remember, what is a quantum computer? It works on the atomic level. So it's a very small chip, and it has some atoms in here which can be manipulated in order to make computations. So actually, when you zoom in, I believe that this might actually be the quantum computer. So the very small device here at the bottom of the whole construction. So let's have a look at some of the breakthrough developments around Willow. Well, what we mentioned before is that when we're talking about quantum computing, we're not talking about bits. Bits are zeros and ones on these transistor devices, but we're actually talking about qubits, quantum bits, and these are on atomic level. So every quantum bit is basically one atom. So what is Willow? Willow has 105 qubits, so 105 of these smaller devices combined together, which can be any combination of 0 and 1 together. So they can be in many different states. So here you see, so if you combine like 105 different qubits, you would get like an array just like this. And the whole thing with quantum computing is there is a possibility that it generates an error. So a measurement error or a calculation error. So what did Willow do? Well, Willow, or the team at Google that created Willow, they created an error correction technology. So basically, whenever an error is created on Willow, it has some internal mechanisms to correct that error. Now, I can go into depth about this as well, but this is also a whole field of study by itself. Error correction at the in transistors, but also in quantum physics. So I'm not going to bother you with too technical stuff. So the thing that you need to understand is that Willow works with 105 qubits, so 105 of these, and it has some built-in error correction, which allows it to, number one, perform a lot of calculations in a very short period of time, and number two, correct itself when it makes an error. So here you see the quantum computing roadmap of Google. So here you see that in milestone number 2, which is Willow, it focused on error correction. So as this quantum computing field progresses and as the quantum computing team at Google becomes better and better, they want to create more stable qubits that create less errors, but they also want to focus on these error correction technologies that make it even more accurate. So yeah, they're constantly working on making better computing chips with more qubits so it can perform more calculations and more accurate calculations. So yeah, this is an ever-evolving industry, an ever-evolving field, and I do believe, it's really exciting what's going on. But when you're hearing all of these developments, the question is, will it be able to destroy Bitcoin by cracking its security? Well, let's talk about a few limitations of quantum computing. First of all, what we discussed before, quantum computing is very prone to errors. So how can it be influenced, or how can these errors come into existence? Well, if you are working with chips that are basically formed out of smaller atoms, even a small change in the environment, like the temperature or some light hitting the chip, could actually mess up the computation. So here you see you've got this chip, it's doing some computations, but then some light or some change in temperature affects the atoms, and then it basically gives a different answer. However, because there's some error correction built into Willow, it's able to then again autocorrect and get rid of the error. So that's very interesting. Then what we also discussed is that quantum computing requires really low temperatures, because at lower temperatures, these different components that make up these atoms move less. So they're more predictable, meaning that you can manipulate them in more predictable ways. Whereas if it's really hot, then all of these components of atoms tend to move quite a lot, making it really hard to actually do computations with them. And of course, this requires really expensive equipment. So right now, this is not a technology that is readily available for the masses. It's only for tech teams with very big budgets, like, for example, Google's tech team. So even if, some teams like Google's team has access to these machines, are they able to then crack Bitcoin? Well, in order to understand that, we first need to look at how cryptography works. So the most basic understanding of cryptography is, let's say that I want to send you a secret message. I have an encryption key. So I basically have a set of rules or a set of symbols or characters where if I want to send a message, I'm just going to put my encryption key next to it, and I'm going to basically scramble the message according to the formula, and then it will send a randomized message to a receiver. And then at the receiving end, the receiver then also holds a decryption key, which allows it to descramble the message and actually interpret the message that I originally sent. So this allows you to send messages over, the radio, TV, or you could even honk by a car. For example, one way of sending an encrypted message is through the telegram, the beeping sound. That, for example, was one way where you could send encrypted messages. So only if you knew how to interpret the different types of beeps and the different lengths of beeps, you were able to make sense out of what was being said. But if you didn't understand Morse code, that's it, Morse code, then you didn't know how to decrypt the message. So people would be able to send it without you being able to make sense of it or acting upon it. Now, I think one of the most interesting movies, if you want to learn more about cryptography, is The Imitation Game. So The Imitation Game is about Alan Turing. Alan Turing is a computer scientist. He basically invented one of the first computers, and he was hired by the British government in order to decipher the Enigma machine. So what is the Enigma machine? The Enigma machine is an decryption machine which was used by Germans in order to decrypt encrypted messages that were sent across Europe so that German soldiers knew the positions of, very critical vehicles or whatever was basically happening on the battlefield. They were sending this out to German soldiers who had Enigma machines, and because they understood they knew how to use the machines, they were able to decrypt these messages, and the other fighting forces in Europe were not able to make sense of these messages. Now, Alan Turing created this machine called Christopher, and Christopher was one of the first computers which was then used in order to decrypt the messages that the Germans were sending. And as a result, the British were actually able to intercept the messages, and they used this to their advantage in either the First World War or the Second World War. I don't remember. Here, Nazi Germany. So must have been the Second World War. And I believe that this whole invention of Christopher, which was this machine, some people estimated that because they created Christopher, who intercepted these German encrypted messages, they were able to finish the Second World War 2 years earlier because it gave them such a big advantage. Now, what does all of that have to do with Bitcoin? Well, whenever you're doing a transaction on the Bitcoin network, basically what happens is your transaction gets added to a large block of transactions. And those transactions get verified by the Bitcoin miners. So the Bitcoin miners process all of those transactions and then publish them again to the blockchain so that all of the wallets and ledgers, so that all of the entire Bitcoin ledger and all of the wallets are updated. So that's basically what happens. And in order for you to do a transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain, there are two different keys that are relevant. You have the public key, and the public key is very similar to your bank account, so your IBAN or your account number. And then you have the private key. And your private key is similar to your PIN code. So if you've got access to your private key, then you basically you can sign transactions and you can send money from that wallet. So public key and private key, those are very important concepts. Now, how could quantum computers impact Bitcoin? So quantum computers might one day be able to crack private keys. The way that you could understand this is, let's say that I have a really powerful computer which can make a lot of different combinations between letters, between letters, characters, and special characters. And let's say that you have an email password and you have created a strong email password. I don't know, 15 characters with many different numbers, letters, and special characters. So there's a lot of different combinations out there. But I can use my super powerful computer to basically try to crack your email password and to guess many different combinations of your password until I get the right combination, and suddenly your email account gets unlocked. I get access to all of your emails, and then maybe I can also go to your Binance account, your Coinbase account, or your Kraken account, and I can click on Forgot Password. And then I basically have access to your email and your exchange accounts and all your crypto, and it gets really easy to get access to those accounts if I have a computer that's powerful enough to make those different combinations. So quantum computers might one day be able to crack private keys, and private keys are like your password of your Bitcoin wallet. And private keys are derived from your public keys through a very special algorithm. So here's the thing. You start with a public key, and the moment you do your first transaction, your private key is created through a special algorithm. Now, quantum computers might in particularly be able to crack the private keys of wallets that have never done a transaction. So that's a very special case. And one very special case is that of Satoshi Nakamoto. And Satoshi Nakamoto has around 1 million Bitcoin that basically never got moved. No transaction has ever been done. So some experts say that you will know that quantum computers exist and are powerful enough when this 1 million Bitcoin suddenly gets moved. Then quantum computers are strong enough. So that's very interesting. That's a very interesting scenario also to think about. Is this the moment to panic? Is this the moment to think like a grand chess master and think 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 moves ahead and already start to sell your Bitcoin before it's too late and quantum computers actually start to crack Bitcoin security and you might lose out on your Bitcoin? People start to fear, start to become fearful, start to panic, and then everything just crashes down. So why not take profits right now while it's still up, while Bitcoin is still close to 100K? Maybe, I understand why you might think that. But here's the good news. Bitcoin is still safe. Why is Bitcoin still safe? Well, the encryption algorithm that Bitcoin is using is called SHA-256. SHA-256 is actually an algorithm created by the CIA. So that's also where the conspiracy comes from, that the CIA might have created Bitcoin. Well, that's because Bitcoin is using a CIA encryption algorithm called SHA-256. And up till now, no quantum computer is able to break this SHA-256 algorithm. Here you see a post on a forum, and this was posted by Satoshi Nakamoto himself. And he's saying SHA-256 is very strong. It's not like the incremental step from MD5 to SHA-1. It can last several decades unless there's some massive breakthrough attack. If SHA-256 became completely broken, I think we could come to some agreement about the honest blockchain, about what the honest blockchain was before the trouble started, lock that in and continue from there with a new hash function. If the hash breakdown came gradually, we could transition to a new hash in an orderly way. The software would be programmed to start using a new hash after a certain block number. Everyone would have to upgrade by that time. The software could save the new hash of all of the old blocks to make sure a different block with the same old hash can be used. Now, here's another tweet by Max the VC. And he's saying Bitcoin's 256-bit elliptic curve cryptography would require a quantum computer with 13 million bits to break within a day, or 317 million qubits to do so in an hour. Remember, Willow only has 105 qubits, so meaning these atoms that can perform all of these computations in these quantum computers. So yeah, basically Google's Willow chip with 105 qubits is a major breakthrough, but its qubit count is far too low, far below the threshold necessary to break Bitcoin's encryption. Bitcoin remains secure, at least for now. Here is another tweet. A new quantum computer just solved a this was what we were talking about in the introduction. So 10 to the power 25 year problem. So this is what a supercomputer, the amount of time, basically the entire age of the universe would require in order to solve a problem that Willow solved in less than 5 minutes. There are more Bitcoin word combinations than known atoms in the universe. You would need 300 million qubits to even get me think about it. It's not happening in our lifetime. I'm not sure if it will not happen in our lifetime because, again, technology tends to evolve in a very exponential manner. So Moore's law is exponential. With great technology, we produce even greater technology, which allows us to make greater technology, which allows us to make even greater technology. And that's a compound effect. You have got a compound effect in investing, but you also have a compound effect in technology. For example, AI. AI will be used to create better technologies, which then will be used to make even better technologies. And then again, it starts to compound. That again can be a whole different video that we can talk about. So one thing that you need to understand, and this is also embodied in the message of Satoshi, is that Bitcoin is constantly evolving. So Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, who was either an individual or a group of people working together to create this. But ever since it was created, it was adopted by a community of people. And this community of people continuously keep improving it through something that we call BIPs, Bitcoin Improvement Proposals. So BIPs are basically proposals which community members propose to the bigger community, and then we vote on whether we're going to implement these improvement proposals or not. And one of these improvement proposals could actually be a soft fork or a hard fork. So what is a soft fork? What is a hard fork? Now, basically a soft fork is when you update the existing chain. So when you make Bitcoin a little bit better, I don't know, by adding some improved functionality to it, or you can hard fork it. So hard fork is where we say, okay, from this moment onwards, we're going to make a copy of the chain. And on this copy of the chain, there's going to be new rules and the old chain will stay exactly the same. So this is, for example, what happened when Bitcoin Cash was hard forked from the original Bitcoin blockchain. So that's an example of a hard fork. Now, if we would update the hashing algorithm of Bitcoin, it could be a soft fork. So basically, we could create a new rule that now Bitcoin is mined or processed with a new algorithm because SHA-256 is no longer safe because quantum computers can crack it. So again, Bitcoin is very resilient. It is constantly evolving no matter what challenges the world throws at it. And that's really the power of Bitcoin. Here's another example that I want to share with you. Recently, Apple introduced a post-quantum security. So basically, Apple made their algorithms quantum proof. So here again, another article from Wired. So Apple's iMessage is getting a post-quantum encryption. So when large companies like Apple, Microsoft, and you name it, like all of these corporates are able to quantum proof their encrypted messaging systems, then Bitcoin is also able to evolve and to adapt to a new changing environment. So to summarize all of this, yes, Willow is a very strong and powerful quantum computer. And yes, it is able to do exceptional stuff within a really short time frame. However, it is not powerful enough to crack Bitcoin's hashing algorithm SHA-256 today. Satoshi Nakamoto already thought about different scenarios on how to deal with it. You can either hard fork the chain, soft fork the chain, update it. Like Bitcoin keeps constantly updating and evolving. And there are many examples of where large corporations quantum proof their technologies. And if they're able to do it, so is Bitcoin. So I hope that right now I've been able to make you less stressed out about this whole technological development around quantum computing. We're still decades away, or at least many years away, from a serious threat to the Bitcoin blockchain. And this makes me realize how beautiful Bitcoin is as a technology. Like Satoshi Nakamoto really thought about so many different scenarios when they created and designed Bitcoin. So drop a thank you Satoshi in the comments below if you're also grateful for Satoshi Nakamoto for really creating this extremely powerful piece of technology, which is Bitcoin, which is not only a very powerful technology, but is also helping people to regain the control back over their own financial situation by giving them something that the banks and the governments can't control. Basically, Bitcoin is money created for the people, by the people, managed by the people. And I think it's really awesome to be part of this community, but also to have seen my portfolio grow so much by investing in it really strongly in belief. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, again, drop a thank you Satoshi in the comments below if you're also grateful for Satoshi. Also, make sure to smash the like button so I know that you got good value out of this video. It's important feedback for me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, also make sure to subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be posting regular videos just like this one to help you to get an advantage in the crypto market and to help you to make sense of all of the stuff, all of the news that is coming out, and to help you to position yourself for maximum gains in this bull market cycle. And if it's not this bull market cycle, then the next bull market cycle. In any case, I will be around. I will be by your side in the trenches to make sure that you cross that finish line and to achieve your goals. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.